Welcome back, Retro Gamers, to video 5 in the playthrough of Destiny of an Emperor, the series of videos in which I play through the entire 51 levels of Destiny of an Emperor and share with you over 150 tips, tricks, and techniques that will help your gaming be much more enjoyable, much less frustrating. You may remember in the last video that we are on the trail of Zhuo, and we've encountered a couple of his minions so far, defeated them, and then returned to Zhuo Castle to replenish ourselves. Now we are fully kitted up. Remember that each general can have only 8 items in his knapsack, and 3 of those items, for the fighting generals anyway, are going to be a weapon, a piece of armor, and some kind of head protection. So with all of that preliminary, we head back onto the trail of Zhuo. And it's a well-worn trail by now. We know that we're going to run into some opposition on the way. You'll notice at this level, and we're at level 8 in the game right now, that those random groups of marauders, rebels, brigands, bandits, pirates are getting a little bit larger and a little bit stronger, and that will continue to be the case throughout the game. Still, the ones we are most concerned about are the warlords, the generals that might be leading groups of these rebels or others against us. And we don't have need to stop into the inn at Fan Shui Guan. We're going to keep trekking along the trail that we have already trod several times. We're not going through the Gold Key Cave again. You may remember last video we went through the Gold Key Cave, got the Gold Key, got a very strong general, Guan Ping, and defeated Lu Bu here at Hu Lao Guan Fortress. So now we are on the way to Luoyang, the next castle on our way. And again, if you've got a good gaming aid like the one from Mike's RPG, you'll have the diagrams of the countryside of China that will let you navigate without too much back and forth. All right, here we are at a series of stockades that are protecting Luoyang Castle. So let's see what we've got to fight against. Li Zhuo. And let's take his report. 120.72, so he's no big threat. Let's go ahead and do an all-out on him. Remember that we've got sufficient elixirs now to replenish us just in case we run into too many casualties on against one of these warlords. But Li Zhuo didn't seem to be too very powerful against us. Enough to get lots of experience, gold, and rations. And let's just take a quick check at our profile. And we're down a few casualties for each of the armies, but still don't need an elixir at this point. Let's hit the second barricade. And notice that Zhuo has the Frankenstein headdress, so he's going to be some kind of tactician against us. 9117 also doesn't look like that big a deal. So let's do the all-out again in the interest of time. And he went down pretty quickly. And we just moved up to level 9. Let's then take a look at our profile. And in the context of this new level of soldiers for Zhang Fei and Guan Yu, we still don't need an elixir at this point for any of our fighters, although Guan Yu is getting pretty close. Let's go ahead and venture into Luoyang Castle, which happens to be, by the way, kind of the capital of the country. And we run into somebody standing outside. Okay, Lu Bu has trounced the army that was there. And we've lost one of our allies. Apparently he's not willing to fight alongside us anymore. I don't even know who that guy was, but he seemed pretty upset. Let's go ahead and hit the portal of the castle and see what we can find. And there he is, the man, Dong Zhuo, and just like all the other warlords, he's going to trash talk us. Notice that he's got a very large Frankenstein headdress, so he's going to be throwing some tactics at us, and we are lunatics to attack Luoyang, and sure enough, Dong Zhuo now has Lu Bu with him. Remember Lu Bu being the strongest warlord in the game. So let's take the reports. Dong Zhuo, 162.72. That's a strange intelligence quotient to have for the Frankenstein headdress, so that should be very interesting to us. Remember that Lu Bu at 255 is the strongest guy in the game, but only an intelligence of 72. So we are going to focus on Lu Bu first of all, because he has the most potential for inflicting casualties on us, although Dong Zhuo is pretty strong as well. Let's go ahead and target Lu Bu. And let's use tactics for both Guan Yu and Ho Hu and throw some fire at Lu Bu and see how that works. And you'll see Lu Bu taking 60 casualties at each swing. Dong Zhuo is just one casualty behind him. So these are two very powerful generals against us. You notice Guan Yu was very successful with his fire attack, over 100. So Lu Bu is all of a sudden down to a manageable number of soldiers. So let's shift some of our focus against Dong Zhuo, and let's just let Guan Yu throw fire again at Lu Bu and see if we can bring him down below 100. Soldiers. And Lu Bu just had a heavy hit on Lu Feng, 124, double the number of normal casualties that he would have inflicted. So we've got to watch Lu Feng now, make sure he doesn't get close to being routed. And there's Guan Yu, very successful with fire again. Looks like fire is our friend here so far. So let's use some more against Dong Zhuo. And we still have sufficient that we can throw fire. Now this greater fire is costing us 4 tactical points per use instead of just the 2. So keeping that in mind. Still, we're very successful here against Dong Zhuo, and both of them now. There goes Dong Zhuo. Very, very successful attacks with fire in this particular case. So let's just gang up on Lu Bu. He's not going to be able to use any tactics against us. So we could just go ahead and do an all-out here, but I want to finish him off before we turn our attention to the rebel forces. And now we can do the all-out. And Lu Bu and Guan Yu, Dong Zhuo, are going to run away, retreating back to Chang'an. So that's where we'll find Dong Zhuo in our next foray against him. Meanwhile, we got lots of points, gold, and rations by defeating him. And here we are in the capital of the country, Luoyang. And you might notice that he has completely destroyed the city. Fortunately for us, he missed the destruction of one particular building, and we've got a chance to sleep off all of the casualties that they inflicted on us for only 5 gold coins for the night. A very good deal. I guess that's because we probably got the taste of ash as we sleep in the beds. But here we are, replenished again, and still with a full complement of our elixirs. So we are in very good shape here. We're going to stop at one other place. There are some characters you could talk to, but this is the only other place of significance. Now, you remember we've been piecing together this puzzle of getting Lu Bu on our side, and one of the pieces of the puzzle is the gold key. You may remember back in one of the fortresses, a guy we encountered said, "Look in my house and you'll find the gem sword." We didn't know where that house was. We have now found the house. Notice that little square that's the different color of the rest of the floor. And we take a look at that, check it, and a small keyhole. This is where the gold key comes into effect. And if you hadn't been watching my videos, either the short videos, Top 10 Tricks, or this one, you wouldn't realize that you needed a gold key until now, and you'd end up going back across the countryside trying to find the gold key cave. But we've got the gold key, and we've got the keyhole. So let's use it. And we got the gem sword. Now, let's see who's holding the gem sword. There it is. Ho Hu is holding it because he was the only guy with a space in his knapsack. Now, here's another part of the trick of getting Lu Bu on your side, is that you're going to have to fight Lu Bu again, and one of the fighting generals is going to have that gem sword on in his knapsack to offer to Lu Bu, which means that it's not, well, let's see, wait a minute. Okay, yeah, we've got Ho Hu as the 5th fighting general now. The only problem with that is that we can't use tactics with Ho Hu if we're going to offer the gem sword with Ho Hu. So we'll have to address that before we run into Lu Bu again. Now, you may think I'm rambling right now, but it'll all become clear not too far down the road now. Another random warlord, Li Su, and he bites the dust. And he's not all that powerful, so he's not going to really add to our fighting quotient here. Another group of brigands. Only 34 gold coins, not very rich brigands. So here we are at the next castle. Now let's take a look at our profile before we hit the portal. And we see that we haven't experienced very many casualties, but I want to be able to move that gem sword to one of the other generals instead of sacrificing our tactics turns with Ho Hu holding out. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. So I noticed that Guan Ping has 3957 casualties, he's the one that needs an elixir the most. So we are going to let Guan Ping use one of his own elixirs to refresh himself. And then we are going to pass the gem sword to Guan Ping. I'm going to think through that again. Guan Ping is one of our most powerful generals. So let's do this. We'll pass an elixir from Lu Feng to Ho Hu, and then we will pass the gem sword from Guan Ping to Lu Feng. Because right now, Lu Feng is probably the least powerful general that we have. I mean, he and Guan Ping are fairly close, but I'm going to put the gem sword with Lu Feng, and now you'll see how this process goes as we hit the portal to Yangzhou Castle. And sure enough, there's Lu Bu. And he's got a couple of other generals with him, and they caught us off guard somehow. I don't know how that could have happened, but there it is. Now, let's take the report. We already know what Lu Bu is bringing to the table. Let's take a look at these other generals. Kai Young, obviously he's going to be using tactics against us, and he is every bit as smart as Guan Yu, even smarter than Huo Hu, and so using tactics against Kai Young is probably not going to work. However, Hu Jin is not very smart at all, not very strong either. So we want to use tactics. Well, let's hold off on the tactics because what we want to do is this. We'll send our muscle against Kai Young, and we are going to offer the gem sword to Lu Bu. And the way you do this, you go to the item menu, you go to the gem sword, and you'll see the finger pointing at Lu Bu. He's the one that we want to offer the gem sword to. And then these other generals, we want to fight against Kai Young in the hope that we can get Lu Bu on our side. And we need him on our side because there's 55 casualties at one swing. And we offer the gem sword to Lu Bu, and he said, I would love to have that sword. And why not? That's exactly what we want, so we say yes. And he is so impressed. Dong Zhuo was so mean to him that we're so kind. Lu Bu wants to join us. Absolutely. How may I serve? Notice he disappears from the enemy side of the battle screen, but he does not reappear over here on the Allies side. So Lu Bu's joined our army, but not in this particular battle. And now he gives us these directions. 8 yards west and 1 yard south, and we will find his horse Chi Tu Ma. If you like, you can ride him. Thanks a lot. We already found Chi Tu Ma. Remember, again, that if we didn't have these videos, you'd end up at the end of this fight going all the way back to Hulao Guan and trying to find Chi Tu Ma. Notice that Lu Bu didn't say anything about 8 yards west and 1 yard south and whatever. He didn't say where you start to follow those directions. So that's the reason you need these playthroughs or the top 10 tricks videos. Meanwhile now, we don't have Lu Bu as an adversary, but we still got to beat down Kai Young and Hu Jin. And he's thrown some fire at us very effectively and burned up a lot of Ho Hu's resources there. So again, we are going to focus muscle against Kai Young and fire against Hu Jin. And it looks like we're going to be fairly successful here in a fairly short amount of time. Hu Jin is only inflicting less than 20 casualties per stroke. So looks like this battle is going to be very effective for us. Let's do at least one more targeting round. And see if we can take Kai Yang off the board. Success. And then Hu Jin, still pretty strong character, but I think we're going to be able to overpower him in this next round. So let's go ahead and do the all out. So not only have we conquered Yangzhou Castle, but we have also persuaded Lu Bu to join our side. And we've got a bunch more rations and gold and experience, and into the castle we go. And we're going to do a little dipsy-doodle. First of all, now that the battle is over, you notice we've got Lu Bu in our fighting group. And so Ho Hu will no longer be fighting, so let's pass Ho Hu's equipment over to Lu Bu. Notice I'm not passing the flail. Oops, I guess I did. My mistake. Too busy talking, not busy enough thinking. And I'll tell you why I didn't want to pass the flail here in a second. In this little hovel here, we have a vase, and we take a look over the side and search, and we find a club. And because Lu Bu is our strongest warlord here, we're going to pass the club to him. We'll get a lot more bang for our buck with Lu Bu wielding that club, and we'll pass the flail back to Ho Hu. And we'll rework the formation to put Lu Bu in front. So now you see the numbers that we have together, and before we go to the inn, my fingers are not doing the walking very well here. We've got another place to go. We run into characters who tell us that the Emperor and Cao Cao, the leader of the Emperor's armies, have been put in prison. And here they are, and we're going to free them from the prison. We talked to Cao Cao. They were caught in an ambush and almost didn't live. And he reiterates that Dong Zhuo is headed toward Chang'an. That's what Dong Zhuo said when we defeated him. He was going to retreat to Chang'an. Let's not miss the opportunity to talk to the emperor. He's going to go back to Luo Yang. Remember, Dong Zhuo destroyed Luo Yang. And he's going to take General Cao Cao, and they're going to go back to the capital and rebuild it, while we are in the process of chasing down Dong Zhuo. So they've got a lot of confidence in us, I guess. Okay, one more place before we go to the inn. let's go ahead and sell the extra flail. And let's go ahead and replenish all of our elixirs. Notice that Lu Bu has nothing in his, so we can give Lu Bu 5 elixirs. Okay, Lu Bu's filled up. Let's just check with Guan Yu. He needs one. Or Guan Ping, I mean. Lu Feng just filled him up. Sorry, my fingers are just a little bit trigger happy right now. And let's fill up our tactician here. And we haven't used the Gull Wing yet or the Resurrect, so we don't need to replenish those. So now we've got our entire battle group back at full knapsacks again. And let's replenish ourselves. 18 gold coins per night. So 3 gold coins per general at this particular inn, a little more expensive than we've encountered before, but still the best deal in the game. And just in case the power goes out or something else happens before we're ready to shut down, let's record. Now, let's just for argument's sake, let's invite Liu Bei out here to Yangshu Castle. There is no place in this castle to entertain Liu Bei in. Grammatically incorrect, and that palace that we just freed the emperor from is apparently not classy enough for Liu Bei. So Liu Bei is not going to join us here. Just for argument's sake, that's what will happen. The game has certain castles that Liu Bei can inhabit, and you can invite him to the others. Even if there's a palace, Liu Bei won't come. And you'll learn that at each palace. Now, into the next series, we are on our way now to Chang'an Castle. And the only way to get there is this tunnel through the mountains. And you're going to need a pretty good gaming aid to make it through this tunnel anytime this season. And I'm just going to call up my gaming aid here. This is Yangju Cave. And here we go. Got to make it through this place. And as with the other caves, you're going to find that there are a lot of rabble roaming around in these mazes. And it's usually a pretty hard fight to get all the way through any of these caves. And if you don't have a good gaming aid, you're going to end up fighting a lot more as you wander around, taking wrong turns back and forth. But even if you don't have a gaming aid, if you want to do as I did at my first few plays of the game, I actually constructed my own diagrams of each one of these caves so that I could find my way through. I actually sketched a diagram of the whole game board, including the areas of China, so I could find my way through to each one of the castles. Then I found Mike's RPG. Mike'sRPG.com. Okay, Li Jue we've already seen once. He's not a big deal. Jia Zhu is a pretty strong tactician. So we could do an all-out here, but I'm just going to do targeted battle against Jia Zhu. Accept the casualties from Li Jue and see if I can take Jia Zhu off the board before he throws fire or anything else at us that's going to cost us a lot of casualties. And again, the rebel forces are just so many bees at the picnic. Now, we could just target a couple of our generals against Jia Zhu now to take him off the board, but he's a tactician, and he has a tactic that will restore himself or some of the other forces, and so let's target everybody against him just in case he replenishes himself, which he didn't get to do because Lu Bu was big enough to take him down all by himself. So Lu Bu with a club is a formidable adversary against these guys at this particular time. He's packing quite a punch. Li Jue, on the other hand, we remember from the last time we fought him, was no big deal. Now, if we could get Jia Zhu, that would be a much stronger tactician than Ho Hu that we have now. Meanwhile, we've advanced another level. That's good news. And we've got another tactic, which is a water tactic. More tactical ability, and sure enough, we captured Li Jue, but he is the one that's not that big a deal. So we're going to let him go. And unfortunately, Jia Zhu was not an option. And before we get to the other side of the tunnel, we're going to stop right here. We're going to do the following. Now, all 6 of our generals have their knapsacks completely full. So we're going to have to use an elixir before we can accept anything else in our knapsack. And so we take a look here and we see who is closest. It looks like all of these guys are still above needing 100 soldiers restored, except for Guan Yu. So we're going to feed Guan Yu an elixir. That leaves a hole in Ho Hu's knapsack, and we are going to pass Zhang Fei's axe to Ho Hu. Because in this treasure chest, we found another club. And that falls into Zhang Fei's knapsack, and we can just equip him with it. And because Zhang Fei, even though he doesn't have as many soldiers as Guan Ping or Lu Feng, he's still packing a bigger punch. So we want him to have the greater weapon. Lu Bu's a little bit stronger than him with over 100 soldiers more than Zhang Fei. So Lu Bu is going to pack the biggest punch. Zhang Fei will be close behind him. And we've got them in the right order now, so we head on down the trail in pursuit of Dong Zhuo again. And here we are out the other side of the cave, and we are approaching now Chang'an. Before we get there, we've got this guy to contend with. You may remember Hua Zhang. He was the first guy we encountered when we started to chase Dong Zhuo. And he's got 439 soldiers, and he's got a strength of 162, which is pretty respectable for right now. If we could get him on our side, we've only got 6 generals, he might be a fairly good addition. But first, of course, we've got to defeat him. So out of respect for his semi-impressive strength, let's go ahead and do a targeted attack against him. We've got enough elixirs that we could afford to do an all-out against him. But I'd rather do a couple of targeted attacks, just because he's the kind of a guy who could put a big dent in one of our generals if we weren't careful, and I just want to keep our eye on him. Now that we've got him almost destroyed, we can do the all-out against him. And we have an opportunity to convert him, but he says no thanks. So we go on, and here's Chang'an with a barricade between us and that. Let's check our resources now, and it looks like Lu Bu, Guan Ping, Lu Feng, Zhang Fei, all 4 of those could use an elixir, and Guan Yu is getting close. So let's go ahead and expend some of our elixir resources. Okay, let's take a look at our profile again, and you can see we're very, very close to full strength. And let's hit the barricade. And here we've got Don Ming and Fan Zhou. Don Ming is not much of anything. Fan Zhou is almost to the caliber of Hua Zhang. So let's go ahead and do at least one targeted attack against Fan Zhou. And this is a trick of the game that oftentimes these warlords who attack you, they'll put a weaker warlord up front just to kind of fake you out. So it's always a good idea to do that spy report before you start fighting these guys. You know, it's our intention to put our strongest generals up front right now, but some of these opposition forces are trying to pull a fast one on us. So we take Fan Zhou down below 100 first, and then we can afford to do an all-out attack against Dong Men and what's left of Fan Zhou, because they're not going to hit us with too many casualties at this point. Since Guan Yu was down close to needing an elixir, let's take a look at him real quick. $232, so he still doesn't really need an elixir. All the rest of our soldiers are still in pretty good strength, so Zhang Fei is getting close. Let's go ahead and feed Guan Yu an elixir, though. And we're going to use Lu Bu's elixir stash because we're going to want him fighting during the battle and not stopping to use elixirs, so we can afford to use his outside the battle. That's a little tip from me to you. And let's go ahead and hit the portal of the castle. And there he is, Dong Zhuo again, and more trash talk. He laughs at our folly. Oh, take a look. One of the reasons we didn't get Jiazhu is because he's showing up to fight alongside Dong Zhuo. So let's remind ourselves of Dong Zhuo. Even though he's got a Frankenstein headdress, he's not all that smart, but he is pretty strong. Jiazhu is the tactician, obviously, and he's going to be throwing some of that list of tactics you see there on the right side. And then Zhang Ji is not too smart, almost as strong as Dong Zhuo, though. So let's do our muscle against Jiazhu. And let's do our tactics. Throw some fire. Wait a minute. Let's see if we can throw some water at Dong Zhuo and see how effective that is. And Jiazhu puts up a defensive barrier against us. We'll see if that's very effective. Wow, that was a great water attack against Dong Zhuo. So Jiazhu's defenses apparently didn't work all that well. Let's try that same pattern again. And Lu Bu is taking those big bites out. Notice Dong Zhuo is taking even bigger bites out this time. And Zhang Ji is kind of trailing behind. But now we're taking Dong Zhuo down near 100 soldiers. So this is looking really good for us right now. Let's go ahead and use another water tactic and see if we can't get both of these guys down below 100. And Jiazhu just brought himself back up, but I think we've got enough fighting against him that we can take him back down again. Well, we got rid of Dong Zhuo. Let's just go ahead and do targeting against Jiazhu, and let's use one more water tactic against that trailing general. And Jiazhu uses an effective water tactic against us. And now with Jiazhu off the board, we can go ahead and finish out this attack. So we've accomplished our second mission, defeating Dong Zhuo We have conquered the defense of Chang'an and got a bunch of rewards in so doing. Now, Chang'an is kind of the big grape of China, the big persimmon, we might call it. It is the largest castle with the greatest number of resources. And what we would do normally after a fight like the one we just had is head for the inn right away. But we're not going to do that. We're going to invite Liu Bei to Chang'an. And sure enough, Liu Bei is more than willing to come here because it's the biggest castle in the land. And there's another reason to invite Liu Bei. He is so grateful to us. He's going to give us a free night in the inn. But then, early in the morning, he's looking for us. Let's go see what Liu Bei wants. We got all kinds of people around here, and they've got all kinds of intelligence to give us as well, but we'll only talk to the ones that we need to. We've got a messenger from Cao Cao. Yuan Shu of Nanyang has somehow acquired the imperial seal, and he's calling himself the emperor. And we can't allow him to do that. He's trying to depose the real emperor. So we've got another fight on our hands. We're after now the third major villain, Yuan Shu. Now, you may remember Yuan Shu. We've heard talk of him before. He was supposedly an ally to Cao Cao. But then all of a sudden, Cao Cao ended up in an ambush and almost got destroyed. Yuan Shu is basically a dirty traitor, and his brother, Yuan Shao, is about the same. And now they are the major villains making their play for the Empire of China. So we've got a lot of business to conduct here in Chang'an before we go after before we go after Yuan Shu. So I am going to do just a couple of things, show you the ropes here, because we come to an important juncture here in this particular merchant. We have the regular stuff, but we've also got two new items. The smoke pot we'll talk about later. I don't use them very often, but we'll talk about them before we use them. The power pill, however, is a great resource for us, and we're going to be using lots of those. And notice they aren't very expensive. What the power pill does is give you more than 100% boost in your striking ability. So if Lu Bu, for example, is inflicting 50 casualties just by the strength of his weapons, if he uses a power pill along with his weapons, he'll get a striking power of 100 or maybe 120, more than doubling the striking power. So they're only a one-use item, however. So what we're going to do is as follows. We're going to move some of the elixirs out of our generals. We'll pass them to Ho Hu. And power pills are so important to us that we will sell some of them off to make room in our knapsacks. Once we've filled up Ho Hu's knapsack. And I think that may be the last one that we can pass. Yep, Ho-Hu is full up. So we're going to sell off some of our elixirs. And this is a pretty important, I wouldn't take the time to do this, but this is a pretty important tip and will stand you in good stead for the rest of the game. We go to each one of our generals in turn. And notice we're only getting 15 gold coins back for each of these elixirs. It's cost us 5 gold coins per elixir for having overstocked. So now we're going to stock up with elixirs. Stock up with power pills. 2 per general. So in the first 2 rounds of the battle, if we run into a particularly difficult foe, we can, in the first 2 rounds of battle, use these power pills against our enemies and get some very strong reactions. It'll help us overpower larger armies. Now, there's one other thing that we can do here in Chang'an that will be very important to us. Just so happens that there is a weapons dealer here who has clubs and also the next generation of head protection. So we are going to make room in our knapsacks for that by selling all the bandanas and all the remaining axes. Now, before you do this, I might caution you, you want to take a look at your total money outlay. And you can look in the weaponer and you'll find out that clubs cost 500 gold coins each. And the new headpiece is going to cost 150 gold coins each. You need 3 more clubs, so that's 1,500 gold coins. And you need 5 of the new head protection at 150 each, so that's 750. So you need a total of 225 or 2,250 gold coins. And you happen to see over there at the right hand the money box. We've got that. What I'm saying is, before you sell off all your stuff, be sure that you've got enough money to replace it. Now, Zhang Fei, remember, and Lu Bu already have the clubs. So that saves us 1,000 gold coins right there. And once we've sold off the outdated weaponry, we come down to the weapons dealer and we replace it with the good stuff. Let's go ahead and buy the clubs first. And then the caps. Cap will give more defensive value than the bandanas. Oops. Okay, and then, of course, immediately we want to equip each one of the generals with these new purchases, so we don't forget to do that. All right, you get the idea here, obviously. We can go ahead and short circuit this video. I'm going to finish up equipping all of my generals with their new weaponry. And then I'm going to the recorder, who happens to be here as well, and save the game. And we will call back up. Video number 6 will be in pursuit of Zhuo. So, please do like, subscribe, all that other free stuff. Freely comment and let me know what your thoughts are and questions, and I will respond back to you on my YouTube site, Emperor Tricks. Thank you very much for watching. Happy gaming.